channel PyramidTimes. We have with us Charu. She is a chief editor in MB Publishing. She is also a pyramid master, a meditator, educator, and an avid reader. She will introduce us how we can capture most of the information in our books, may it be spiritual or any other books. Today she will be highlighting on this topic. And we also have with us a special guest, Ilona Selke. She is an international best-selling author, seminar leader, lecturer, and musician. Ilona Selke has been teaching personal growth seminars since 1986, having affected thousands of people in all over the continents from North and South America, Europe, India, and also numerous countries in the Far East. She is also a director of Living from Vision, teacher trainer, and also she has trained many teachers all over the world in Europe, Singapore, Australia, South America, and her trainings are done extensively in 4 languages. She is a favorite on TV and also radio interviews for being very inspirational as well as practical. And her love for dolphins is published in her book, Wisdom of the Dolphins. And also there is another book, Dolphins, Love and Destiny. So we will be discussing extensively on her book today, Wisdom of the Dolphins. With this, I would welcome Miss Charu and Ilona Selke to the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Veena.
Thank you.
Charu, you can start questioning.
Sure. I had the privilege of actually translating Ilona's book, of being the editor of the translated version from English to Hindi. So one of the first questions I'll start with Ilona is, what made you think Hindi was, the next best language for this book to be translated into?
Well, I think the universe had that in mind. I am not quite sure, but I do think that really, why does one book make it and another one doesn't? And I think it has to do with, I remember the moment I was flying in an airplane and there was a message from the universe that said, we need a book about dolphin consciousness. And I said, I'll write it. But I clearly felt that there were other people who had their hands up. And as a matter of fact, when I was writing my book, we were 3 women writing at the same time. One was a famous dolphin researcher. One was a woman who lived by a dolphin beach, as where I did. All 3 of us wrote a book. All 3 of us published. But I felt like my book was guided by angels' hands, truly. I felt like it was picked up, it was given to people in high positions, and somebody came to my house and said, this manuscript will go a lot of places. So I think sometimes we are the custodian, we are the servant, and the universe has a plan. And that's the difference between sometimes having your own dreams and wishes versus helping the universe fulfill its wishes and dreams. Sometimes all you do is raise your hand and say, I volunteer, I'll do my best. And then the universe says, okay, we'll take it. And so honestly, I believe the reason it is now in Hindi is because the universe is coordinating from other levels. The other reason, honest to God, I really feel the reason why it's in Hindi now is because I almost moved to India, and I could be right now living in India with you. And instead, somebody said, just before I bought land in India, they said, oh, you better stay in Bali. It's softer here, and it's an island. Just stay here. It's very intense in India. I've lived in India. So she said, here's a house for sale. You can live there. Well, I was going to be part of an ashram in India, and then we just bought a personal house here in Bali by a dolphin beach. And then it evolved so that we now have our little miniature ashram here, Shambala. And even though maybe my wish didn't become full, my vision originally was to go to India, wasn't fulfilled because I'd made a different choice, but something still keeps going on. The universe, has plans, and we can cooperate or move in different directions, but somehow our path will still touch in with our destiny. And there is a big book, this question that I answer in my book, Dolphins, Love and Destiny. It's about the question of if we have free will, if we have destiny, if there is fate, and how does raising our vibration and being conscious have to do with free will and destiny, and what can we do to live in alignment with the higher will as well as have free will that we express.
So, what made you choose only dolphins and why not the other animals? As I know that other animals also communicate telepathically.
Yes.
They are also having that group consciousness where they would interact with other beings also. Why only dolphins?
Well, at the time when I was going to a seminar where I learned some very amazing techniques about the nature of the holographic universe by Dr. Vern Wolf, Donna and my husband and I stopped at SeaWorld. And I wouldn't do it again, but we did. And we watched orcas swimming and doing all the tricks and jumping through hoops. And what I felt was that the orcas had a much bigger consciousness than humans did. Now, I've had great telepathic communications with cats and other animals. I would say dolphins are another class. They truly are able to take us on a ride of evolution. Differently than I have experienced cats or dogs to do, or even fish or other animals. Everything is interactive, even trees and plants. Everything is interactive. But dolphins have a consciousness that is way beyond what normal other animals can do. I put the dolphins in a class almost like angels. Angels of the sea, the Greeks called them. The angels were, or the dolphins were known to rescue people in the Grecian seas, in the Aegean seas, from shipwrecking and running into rocks. They took the ships out into safe passage. Unless a dog would be trained, I don't think a dog would be like a dolphin in the wild, would take like a wolf, would not in a group, would not say, oh, that human needs help. Let's help this human. Let's rescue that human. Like there have been, like when my book came out in 1996, I remember being interviewed by a television station, and they said, you know, we have the situation. There's this little boy in Mexico, it's in the water, and he was in an inner tube, and he drew pictures of what happened to him. And he said a dolphin would come and push him up. He was would have otherwise slipped in and fallen asleep and drowned. But the dolphin would keep him up. In all my talks, I've heard miracle stories upon miracle stories where dolphins have rescued humans' lives, where they've healed people, where they knew if they were pregnant, if they had tumors. I've taken autistic children or handicapped children to swim with wild dolphins, only with wild dolphins, and they were able to be psychologically adapt, overcome their fears, be able to speak when they weren't speaking before. I don't think that wild wolves or wild animals have the same kind of awareness of humans needing help or humans being a species to be supported as dolphins have. So that is a big difference. And so because at the time when I was writing, there wasn't that much about dolphins on the market, I wrote about the amazing ability of dolphins versus any other animal.
Yes, Charu.
Great. So something that you briefly touched upon, you spoke about free will and destiny. Could you please explain a little bit about what does it mean to live with vision? What is living with vision? Because that comes across in the book quite often.
Yes, living from vision is a technique that we teach over 5 weeks, and it's a master training to get people to understand that what they carry in their own inner consciousness is what they will find reflected in the world outside. And when we learn to not focus on problems, but to focus on our fulfillment, on the vision, we learn to move from being a victim to being a creator, a co-creator in my mind. And we talk about the 4 different levels of creating, of my will, or feeling like a victim or doing it my way, but eventually we'll learn to listen to a higher voice, right? So we co-create with the impulse of a higher dimension, and we listen from our higher perspective, we train we call it the ideal self, so we don't offend any religion, the ideal self, but you can call it the soul, the higher self. It's the upward movement as well as the subconscious, and merge the two together so that we eventually become the middle ground expression in the here now of listening and dealing with our imprints from the past and the imprint from the higher force. And then we start realizing, if I deal with and transform the negative imprints from the past and have my vision set on fulfillment, we are likely to experience a more beautiful life, which is our duty. It is our duty to create a better life. And I call it living in heaven on earth. That we become the embodied angelic beings, just like dolphins, in this. So I write about, in another book, about what if it is we have a destiny. But if you raise your vibration and you evolve your consciousness and your heart, your love, your tolerance, your ability to have compassion and see a bigger picture, if you raise your vibration here, this destiny path no longer applies because you're starting to veer in a different direction. So even though my ship may have taken off into one harbor, if I evolve and voluntarily learn to learn from problems, which is one of the techniques in the course, Living from Vision, and take them onto the higher plateau of being grateful to show me where I really want to go and to learn to integrate that, then I become an expression of a higher potential of the same me than what I was before.
That's so wonderful, Ilona. Like we becoming the total self, and we have the wisdom across the lifetimes, and we are operating at a soul level, maybe implementing the soul plan that we are having. That's so precise. But many people tend to forget it, what they came here for lifetimes. So how do you bring them to realize that their life purpose or life work over here?
Yes. So I love the book by Dan Millman. It's called The Life You Were Born to Live. And it works with numerology, but he has a very special, I think, system based on Indian understanding. And, you know, when I do guided meditations with adults and then also with children, I have found that most people think their life plan has something to do with becoming an author or becoming a movie star or something. But realistically, when people go into meditation and tune into their soul, what they find out is that we are here to radiate more light and emanate more love. That is our soul's purpose, our soul's purpose, our only true purpose is to evolve to become a greater radiant light and to have more love, have more capacity to understand greater breadth of reality and to share love, compassion, and help others become greater love and light themselves. Now, Dan Millman's book points out that if you have a particular number, in case for me, it is 30. My job really, and what I have to learn to do is to share inspiration. Ta-da! That's what I do. So I can do that. I can sing and dance. I can sit at home and tell tales to my grandchildren. I can write books. That's one of them. I can just be nice to people and inspire them in kind words when they come to me. Inspiration and helping people to be inspired is what I am good at, what my talents bring into this world. So you combine talents with the ability to shine more light and more love, and then you live your purpose. But even a person in the bank can do that. Even a person who is really good with numbers and really organized, who works in a bank as a teller, can do that and can bring love and light in orderly understanding and being the number 4 type of person, you know, orderly, having good foundations and being there to build foundations. that person will not be having the same job as I do, but the same purpose of increasing love and light in themselves and in others.
I think now is the time more than ever that Earth needs more light and love on this planet.
For sure.
Yeah,
But
and people like you will definitely are always contributing, and it's an inspiration for to ignite their own life in others' lives also. You are an inspiration to ignite their own light as well.
yes, and that's what the methods of living from vision do. We help people to, most of the time people have difficulties, anxieties, angers, fears, doubts, and that happens to all of us at least once a day, if we're honest with ourselves, right? And instead of saying, no, I'm a spiritual person, I'm just meditating, or, I don't have those feelings, it actually helps, if we're really honest with ourselves, to feel into our core and to start noticing what is currently happening, to give it a feeling, voice, and communicate with it, and then ask it, that anger, the frustration, the fear, what does it really want? And like the flip side of a coin, embedded, inherent in any potential is its higher potential. And if you ask the fear of what it really wants, it wants to feel strong. I write in my book, it's called Insights of Dolphins, right? In Hindi, Dolphin Insights. I write about a story where I take this holographic understanding of the universe into a real life moment. Because, see, many of us come into situations where things aren't going well. And oftentimes we don't know what we do. So most people think about problem. I'm late, I'm this, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm getting instead of going, where do I really want to be? What do I really want to become or feel? Because we think, even if I put my attention on that, what does it help? Well, in my book, I describe how the universe operates holographically, and what you carry in your own feeling body with enough strength and purity and clarity starts manifesting in shape-shifting time and space around you. So here's an example I write about in my book, and I would love for you to find out how to do this in your daily life, because we all can contribute to creating a better life, even globally. I'm in a train. It was 1988 or 89. There are no cell phones. I had made an appointment from America with my friend in Germany to come and meet him at a specific place in time. In Germany, we have train stations, and we have a big clock, where we can say, okay, I'll meet you under the clock. And so that's what we said. At 1 o'clock on Friday, I'll meet you there. So I took a train that was supposed to arrive right on time to be there. So he would pick me up, and Don, and take us to his new apartment. But he couldn't give me the address because he was going to move. And by the time I flew to Germany, he didn't have the address yet. It's okay. We'll meet at 1 o'clock on Friday there. We leave in Germany. The trains at that time were always on time. We leave the train station 20 minutes late. I'm already upset. We're driving, but the train is late, so it's being stopped so other trains can get in front of us on time, because we're already late. In all stations, when we stopped, the clock on the side always was saying, you're late, we're half an hour late, we're 40 minutes late, we're 45 minutes late. I'm not going to meet my friend because he was a genius classical musician, and he was in a rehearsal every day, and that was his lunchtime. So if I didn't make it in the lunchtime, he couldn't pick me up and take us to his apartment. So I got, for a good reason, really frustrated, right? So where do you feel frustration? When you feel frustration, where do you feel it in your body, typically? Can I ask you a question? Where do you tend to feel frustrations?
Sometimes at the heart.
Okay.
Insecurity, fear.
Okay, insecurity, fear. If you have frustration or anger, where do you feel anger? Charu, where do you feel anger?
Solar plexus.
Yes, solar plexus. Many of us, right? Okay, so solar plexus, that's where I felt my anger. If you were to give anger a feeling of frustration, upsetment, if you were to give that feeling a color, what color would you give it? What do you think it
Black,
would?
maybe black, something really.
Black, yeah. And you, Veena?
Blue.
Blue? Well, mine was red. You know, anger is red in my book. Red.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. For you, it's blue. For another person, black. Whatever it is, it's something that's not so nice. Usually, in our mind, you know, something. If I were to say, if you gave it a shape, what shape would it have?
Irregular shape.
Irregular, okay. Charu?
Like an amoebus kind of crackling electricity. Yeah.
Yes, right. Mine was like having spikes, like, you know. So I'm going to tell you that this technique has been used by a lot of psychotherapists, by a lot of teachers. I just had a woman talk to me from Germany. She used these techniques with children, but I had them also used with schizophrenics in clinics, with adult people, all ages. What we're doing is we're doing psychocentric therapy here. We're just going, okay, if it's a feeling, what color does it have? But based on Dr. Vern Wolf's understanding and explanation about the universe, which is what I describe in the book, we live in a holographic universe. So if we have the red anger fireball saying, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late, what do you think will happen in the future if the hologram inside reflects itself on the outside?
We'll be late.
We'll be late. What if I showed you that if you could talk to this red fireball and you could ask it what it really wants? I mean, first of all, let's take that step. What would it really want? If you asked it, what do you really want? What would it really want? Take a
To
while.
reach us on time.
Yes, to reach the destination on time. So I said, oh, I get it. You want to be there on time, duh. What would it look like if you were already on time and we met with our friend, right? I mean, being on time or having the money is one thing, but we really want the end result, right? So let's think about the end result. This is super important because most people think about the way to get to something. They don't put themselves like a time traveler into the future. See, they go into, I have to have a rocket ship, I need to have an airplane, I don't know, I can't overcome 45 minutes of late time. Not in this universe of regular or logical behavior. Well, I'm going to tell you we don't live in a linear universe. You in India already know that. You have had so many magical stories. But believe me, in the West, people think we live in a real, solid, orderly universe. They don't have magic. They don't have miracles. That we hear that from India, but we don't. In the West, miracles are for, you know, maybe some religious figures, but that's it. Well, I'm telling you, we have a new paradigm, and we're shifting collectively, slowly but surely, into understanding that our universe is consciousness interactive. And with this simple technique of communicating with the hologram inside of us, I'm going to show you how you shift the hologram outside of you. So yes, I talked with my anger fireball and I said, what you really want? Be on time? Okay. What would that look like? Oh, we would hug each other. I see a rainbow. Okay, very nice. How does that feel? Wonderful. Happy. I am so grateful. We met. It's so awesome. This wasn't so happy. This is happy. I said, good. Well, now let's have the two meet and have this one absorb the old energy. And I describe this technique clearly in the book, Wisdom of the Dolphins, that is now translated in Hindi. I describe how you can then become the time shifter and you become the master of your own holographic universe. This is what I had in my heart and mind now. So I felt good. We're driving, but the clocks didn't really change, you know, on the side of the road. Every time we stopped, it was still late, but I felt better. Then we arrived. They put us into a different key. We got out. We went to the big clock, and our friend was not there. So Don says, well, Maybe I'll go look around and see, maybe he's walking around looking for us. Suddenly, Don had just gone 10 meters. Our friend comes in and says, Don, Ilona, what are you doing here early? We're like, what? We looked up, there were two clocks, the one on the front and one on the side. I looked up and I thought, what happened? This was, in Germany we have winter time changes, but that's the end of October. This was in September. So I'm like going, did we have winter time? Did I do something wrong? Because I now have experienced so many miracles. I'm no longer using my left brain, the scientific mind, to say, how did this happen? Just like a yogi will not give you great explanations as to how he just manifested a flower, right? It just happens. And so we went to his house, he took us, and everything was fine. What I'm trying to explain to you is how you can master your universe by attending to the negative feelings, right? Oftentimes we suppress them, we eliminate them, but really they can be our stepping stones into the future of where we really want to go. If we learn to go, where am I? Where does it really want to go? And refocus, we can easily arrive at the destination of our choice. And then when we are there and we know where we want, I always say, dear universe, that or better, because ultimately I want to make sure that it works with a higher plan as well. And coming to think of it, I feel blessed that my book now is in Hindi and can help so many people in India have a scientific explanation to why miracles are possible. The modern paradigm shift. Miracles are not just for yogis, they are for everyone. And we live in a consciousness interactive universe.
Right, like you mentioned, this is lovely. Like you said, in the West, it's more of the left brain, more scientific explanations, and mysticism is just now starting to come up there. And it's the opposite in India, where the spiritual, scientific temper has just started to develop. So I am sure this book will really, really help everyone get connected with the dolphin consciousness as well. Especially in Northern India, I think it's going to be great. And
you have
yes.
Patriji in the picture behind you. You see Patriji, right? Patriji loves calling, he calls people out to be a spiritual scientist. Not just blind faith, but to practice yourself and to have results and build upon the results you get and learn what works and pay attention, read all the books you can get so that it's not just like, superstition. It's like knowing how the universe is interactive with our consciousness.
Right, and that's lovely because we also have this great saint Adi Shankaracharya, and when he was asked, if someone has, let's say, a doubt between an experience and the text, what do we do? And he said, you go with your experience. If there is a conflict between the text and your experience, you go with your experience, and that is something that we all taken to heart here. And I would like to go back to your answer because one thing that really struck me was you mentioned, when you had the fireball and you were asking it, and then you started to sort of imagine what it would be like when you met your friend on time. The role of imagination, the power of imagination, that is touched upon in this book as well. So, because, and also there is this, when somebody enters the spiritual practice, there's always this shred of doubt, I got this experience. Was it my imagination or was it a real experience? So what is imagination in your version of the universe, if I can ask you, and what is the role of imagination for a spiritual person?
Well, we have normally 5 senses, right? We see things, we hear things, we smell things, we taste things, and we can touch things. Equally, we have the same on the inside. We can perceive the inner dimensions that have higher frequencies through vision, through hearing, through smelling. We can kinesthetically feel what it feels like, and touch, taste, smell, sound. I mean, the 5 senses on the inside. So we have a duplicate of the perception of finer vibrations through our inner senses. Some people will hear the voice of a master. Some people will smell the smell of the master coming to them. Or in my case, when I was a teenager, I smelled my boyfriend's aroma before he would call me. So when we use our inner senses, oftentimes we say visualize or see inside. But truthfully, at least 30% of the people are more kinesthetic. 30% are more visual, and 30% actually just know, but they don't feel really sure that they see something. Let me give you an example. I would like you to imagine a tree, any tree, and now close your eyes. And now on one side of the tree, imagine a red dog, and on the other side of the tree, a blue dog. And now I'd like you to take your index finger and point to the red dog. I'd like you to do it right now. Point to the red dog. Both, okay, everybody's pointing. Great, thank you. You can open your eyes. You're pointing somewhere where you think a red dog is, right? Now,
Yes.
one person will point to the right, one and above, one there, one there, one there. 100% of all the people I have ever asked will point to where they think the red dog is. But if I asked you, what kind of dog was it? Tell me. People say, well, you know, some people just say it's fuzzy. Some people see, you know, a terrier. Some people know what kind of tree it was. Some people just see an outline. Some people kind of just know there was a tree and there was a red dog and a blue dog. You can see different people have different degrees of imagination and capacity to see. Now, let's just substitute the word visualization or seeing or imagination with the word inner perception, okay? So your question is, what does the role of inner perception have and pre-creating something with my mind with spirituality, right? Do I understand this correctly?
Yes.
All right, when do I know it's real and when do I know it's made up? Well, the short answer is experience will tell you. If you do enough experiments and you insist on getting the accurate answer, eventually you'll go, oh, this is when I'm accurate. This is when my little voice plays with me. You set goals, you set out to know something, you close your eyes, like in the Silva mind control technique, right? They teach little children to read books with eyes closed. They have put eventually they hypnotize themselves, they put a blindfold on and then they go, no. I did some training with a man who taught people how to drive a car with a blindfold on in Seattle. And I trained with him and he did simple exercises. Like he would put different colored pieces of paper in a circle on the floor and he said, which color am I pointing to now? And I had to guess or see it. He would do one exercise after another. Every week we practiced until I got really reliably good. That's when you know you're good. You know by practice. The same thing happens inside, like with dolphins. I would swim with dolphins underwater, and the voice of the dolphins that was just in my head said, dive down right now. And it was in Florida, I remember, to this day. It happened several times. I dove down and there was no dolphin in sight. I hadn't seen any dolphins above the water, but I had this inner voice that said, dive down now. So I did. I dove down, held my breath, but you can only hold your breath maybe for a normal mortal for a minute, yeah? So you don't want to do it too soon. And I straightened out, and there I heard the sonar coming at me. And then suddenly they were in front of me. And I'm like, oh my God, I got the right message. It's experimentation. You learn, you know, it's like, oh yeah, now you have to dive, now you have to dive. Come on, the dolphins are there. And there are none there. You go like, oh, okay, that's not the right voice. So you learn to differentiate when the mind is playing and when we are on. And you get better and better with time. In a recent interview, I mentioned, and I do write it oftentimes, I said I learned how to use my intuition cooking rice. When you cook, you give yourself the command, tell me when you're done. And if the rice tells you it's done and you go and check, you get your feedback. And by the time you're absolutely accurate every time, you know you can rely on that inner voice, right? So training. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, thank you. And that's a wonderful experiment that I think a very small experiment with rice that everyone here can try. So maybe we can start doing that.
Yeah. There is another aspect to your question, and that is if I see certain things in my inner vision, how do I know that they are right? And we probably can never know because there is no true other person to talk to, right? But what I like to do is I work with other people and I meditate with them. And we check, what did you see? You know, we go on a journey. We go with a goal in mind or even just to explore certain levels. And then we come back and we share stories. And typically, when you get good with a partner, you start seeing very similar symbols and very similar information that comes through. Even with the same person over years, each time we meditate together, we will have something new is guiding our attention or something is evolving within us. And that's how we can learn to become good in our perception. We practice with other people who are on the same path.
Yeah. And going about the book Wisdom of the Dolphins, how do we connect to the dolphins or receive a healing from the dolphins, and how we can contribute to the dolphins?
Okay, it would be great if we could show the cover. I obviously here am in Bali. What is the title in Hindi?
Dolphin ki antardrishti.
Okay, that is
translated to Insights of the Dolphins.
Insights of the Dolphins, so that we all know. It's available on Amazon in India, amazon.in. You can just probably type in my name and then you find the book, Ilona Selke. You have it written here, Ilona Selke. So, beautiful question. I love it. So with the dolphins, what you can do is, if you live somewhere by the ocean, you can find out where are they. I know, and the beautiful part is India has given the dolphins a consciousness being status, which means they no longer are allowed to have captive dolphins. This was as of 2013. You probably therefore don't have captive dolphins, which I never went to. Once I did, and it was so depressing, I swore I would never do it again. So all my encounters, all the stories, all the magical stories I write about are in the book are about free and wild dolphins. So, but if you don't live near a dolphin beach, like I did in Hawaii for 12 years, and we owned a dolphin boat for 10 years, many of the times I was not near dolphins. I would go into meditation. And in your meditation, you can create a relationship with one or more dolphins. The Monroe Institute, that is renowned to teaching people out-of-body experiences, has had a segment of their entire institute dedicated to people visualizing receiving the healing sonar from the dolphins in guided meditations. I have it on my website, ilonaselke.com. You can find it. It's only $6. It's a guided meditation for being with a dolphin and gaining wisdom and insight from a dolphin. So, because dolphins, like angels, also live at a higher frequency level, you can learn to enter their mind and consciousness by imagination. Charu, that's one great way of using the imagination. And in the beginning, I didn't know, is it accurate? Is it not? But as you will read in my book, they even told me to be precise. They said, be here at this time, do this, do that. They gave me information ahead of time that then I found out later on in the big world about underwater bombs being supposed to be detonated by the French president, which I had no idea about. And not until a week later was it in the news. So by the time when I got the message, Only the dolphins knew. I didn't know. The news didn't know. But a week later, it was headlines in the news and was printed. That's when I found out about it. But a week earlier, the dolphins asked me to help keep the ocean safe. Veena, that is your question. What can we do? So other people, and I've had that too, they say, please keep the ocean clean. We all understand now that wearing plastic clothing, this is cotton, but if you wear plastic clothing and wash them in a washing machine, synthetics, they become micro pieces in the water and they go into the sewer, but the sewer cannot filter them out. So they come into the drinking water and then we ingest microplastics. They then clog up the livers and the kidney. So we need to pay attention to live a healthier life. So we need to pay attention to not buy synthetics, I mean, in India, probably many people use cotton anyways, since the Gandhi revolution, and it's so hot, I would imagine more. But if you can be conscious about the materials you use, what you use, and a lot of makeup these days has microplastics in it, choose the ones who are natural, who are earth friendly. Choose the ones who are not using animal testing. Be a conscious consumer. The dolphins, one time there was a person who said in his meditation, what can I do to help you? And the dolphin came up to him and had a plastic bag in his mouth and brought the plastic bag over to the person in the water. And it's like, oh. So be mindful. Don't shop with plastic bags. Have cotton bags at home. You bring shopping. Even for your vegetables, have little shopping, whatever. We have these bags where you buy the vegetables in. Don't use the plastic as often as you can. Be conscientious. Do your part, and if everybody does their part, we will make a difference. 8 billion people right now on the planet. If everyone changes all their little behaviors at home, we will make a difference. So, Veena, your question is beautiful. What can we give back? On the one hand, we can imagine being inside the dolphin and let them show us things. They can teach us like masters can. They can become one of our masters, our angels, that we mind meld and we learn how to be in groups, how to be a team player. And we can give back by being conscientious in our consumption and what we do on our daily life.
That's wonderful. It's a great revelation that should come in everyone's lives, how they should be having that harmony, compassion with the living beings that are there on this planet.
Definitely. And I'm sure in India, many people already are vegetarian, right? So I always add to the fact, the biggest CO2 contribution on this planet is meat consumption. Producing meat, the water that they consume is massive amounts. The methane that comes out of their, produces so much CO2. It's actually 70% of the CO2 production on our planet. We will probably see a drastic change in the next 5 years. I believe the current situation that we're in right now in this time is the Corona lockdown time period. And I believe that the powers that are behind are contributing to changing the diet of humanity. So if you can do this voluntarily, start becoming a vegetarian. See, abroad, it's like most of my audience is not. So they go like, I can't live without meat. I'm like going, I'm 60 years old. I can do it. You can do it. I started when I was 19. Everybody I know is a vegetarian, personally. Every friend of mine is a vegetarian. So if you start tapering off, just give yourself half a year to start changing. Read about what your body needs, learn about your blood type, and eat accordingly. There are plenty of substitutes you can eat. But in India, luckily, we still have 50% of the population being vegetarian. So I'm very happy to hear that.
I also want to know about quantum living, which you often speak on, and also multi-dimensional nature of our being, as well as the dolphins, how they operate through multi-dimensions and all.
Well, interestingly enough, in the book, Pictures in a Dolphin Mind by Frank Dobson, Pictures in a Dolphin Mind. He observed, he was a dolphin trainer, and he trained dolphins in captivity at first. So there were dolphin trainers who thought, those are just animals. I'll just train them and I'll make them do what I want them to do. And guess what they got? They got animals that had to be trained and only did what they were told to do. Well, Frank Robson trained his dolphins by imagining what he wanted them to do. Like if he wanted them to jump and touch a red ball, he would imagine them touching the red ball and jumping out of the water. And as a reward, he didn't give them fish, he gave them love.
Wow.
So he used totally different approaches. He said, you guys are so super smart. And he got super smart dolphins. And that is true for all teachers. You will have probably heard about it. What we imagine we get or we have in front of us is what we get back. So when you talk about being multidimensional, it is one job we have to do is making ourselves more capable, more able to feel, more able to know, vibrating higher. And of course, in meditation, if you make the ascent to the source of your consciousness into higher dimensions, then you start vibrating at a core level in your consciousness that is above and beyond time-space than where most humans will operate. At the same token, on the information that operates at that level now has access to your consciousness. Because if you vibrate here, the information flowing here also meets you. It's like having a handy or not. If you don't have a handy, you can't get the internet. But if you plug in, if you put your antennas out and turn on the Wi-Fi, you can then get the informational fields from a higher space. So that takes a little bit of practice. A simple way to start is to imagine how you would feel if you were your most ideal self. See, that moves you into the understanding that your imagination, your projection determines the laws by which you live. But you have to learn how to feel it and really occupy that. In other words, if I just sit there and go, I'm my higher self, I'm my higher self, I know I'm already enlightened, not much is happening. But if I go and tune in and train that part of me that then starts operating at a higher dimension, then I start vibrating in a reality where other people who also exist in that frequency can start sensing that presence. And then more enlightenment can pass through to all of us listening, all of us talking, and it will start trickling into our human interface, the brain, right? And become part of our heart. So when you meet people, make sure that you go to your highest level of frequency, but that it's a felt feeling. Not just, oh yeah, I know, I'm already enlightened. No big deal. I don't have to do anything. It's already there. I'm sure it happened somewhere, It's more like being actively
Yes.
connected at that
Yes.
level. And then you are connected at that quantum level, and you can feel that, and I can feel that.
That's
Yes.
great, lovely. Thank you. Thank you. That was a very nice answer.
This question is to Charu. So, how was your experience in translating the book to Hindi, Charu? What all new insights or the overall feeling of it? How did you?
Right. So I'll just make a quick correction. I was the editor for the book. I did not translate it. The translator was Miss Swati Sharma. Maybe
Yes.
we can have her here also sometime. For me personally, so when I initially read the book in English, I read the book in one sitting, not even one day, one sitting, because as soon as I picked it up, it was so absorbing and it felt like it was shattering so many of my preconceived notions that I just could not put the book down. And I read the book entirely in one sitting. I just, stopped for meal time because I had to, because I literally could not turn the page and read at the same time. So that was the only time I stopped reading the book. But otherwise, I spent the whole day. I read the entire book, and the book just affected me really big. Like I asked the question about imagination as well. I asked the question. These are concepts that we grapple with daily in our spiritual journey, whether you're a beginner, whether you're somebody intermediate. Of course, if you're advanced, then you're probably answering the question. But these are questions that we generally, live with on a day-to-day basis. So to have all these answers coming to us directly from the dolphin consciousness, through the Ilona Selke medium, if I can call it that. So it was like the direct masters and the direct angels of the seas, like she said, were there to answer your queries, were there. And, her experiences, I really urge everyone to read the book in whatever language they're comfortable in, because the experiences that she has shared, because it's what I love about the book is it's not preachy, it's not talk. She's actually walking the walk. So for every kind of lesson or learning that she has shared, she's also added the experience that has led to that understanding for her. So it's not a preachy book, it's not holier than thou kind of a book, but it's very it's like talking to a friend. And that's what I loved about the book. It was a well-wisher, a co-creator, a co-fellow spiritual traveler is just sharing their experiences with you with open arms. And all you have to do is sit and just absorb it all in. So that is what I loved about the book. And in fact, that very nicely leads me to my last question to Ilona as well. Who do you think the book is for? Who should read this book?
Oh my God, I have had 15-year-old children, teenagers read it and tell me that it was the book that opened their eyes to spirituality. I have had people tell me they were 80 years old and they keep it by their bedside like the Bible, and they've read it 5 times. Everybody who wants to grow and understand reality more, who wants to understand the nature of consciousness, who wants to get inspired how to live a better life, how to create a better, more beautiful life, how to understand not only another species, but how all of us are connected at a higher level with greater levels of consciousness. Anybody who wants to discover the nature of reality and how consciousness interacts with reality and evolve their spiritual nature, this book truly is amazing. It truly, I mean, honestly, it's been 30 years that the book, that I've taught these techniques, and it's been 20 years the book has been on the market in English. And what people have said has been so deeply, like you said for yourself, has been so deeply transformative that I can, with all good consciousness, say the universe asked for a book to be written like that. And I said, okay, I'll help out. And that's what I think it is. It's a method, it's a voice from the universe trying to get us all to understand that we are important. We are not just a wheel in the big universe machinery, but we are really important. And what we think on a daily basis, what we feel, makes the world a better place or not. And we are important in the evolution of our planet and our humanity.
So today we wonderfully spoke on how to manage our anger, how we can see it in a creative way and shift it to a new perspective and what we want actually. Focus on what we want. And also
and it's also absorbing the old negative energy, and I describe how to do that and make it part of the new energy. So we don't have to eliminate or repress the negative, but we let it evolve into what it always wanted to be.
Right. And also you have clearly explained what is imagination and inner perception and how to distinguish it clearly. And also about unity consciousness or multidimensionality of our own nature. So, and I'm sure there are many more insights that are provided in the book, and also through your examples, it will be even more experiential learning by going through the book for many of the readers of the PyramidTimes.
Yes. Thank you. I want to thank PyramidTimes. I want to thank Padraji. I want to thank both of you and anybody working on Anil in the background. I am very honored and touched, and I am wishing all the viewers, all the readers, all the blessings in the world to become a greater co-creator of heaven on earth. Thank you very much.
So all the descriptions about the book and Ilona Selke's work will be provided in below this video. You can go through this.
Yes, let's do that. If you want to make sure you get more amazing interviews and mind-opening interviews, make sure you subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below. Make sure you turn that bell on, because that way you know if a new video is coming, and make sure you share and tell your friends. That's how good news travel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ilona, for your wonderful interview. And also thank you, Charu.
Thank you, Charo and Veena. Thank you.